Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching this monthly ag forecast for Ag South and Ag Carolina Farm Credit. All right, I got to be honest with you. I'm very glad that we do these videos at the end of the month, and I'm very glad I didn't record it last week. And the reason for that is there seemed to be last week pretty strong evidence that now Tropical Storm Imelda here had a very high probability of going straight into the Carolinas. And even as last Friday, we were projecting 7 to 15 inches of rain along the coastal plain of both North and South Carolina. Now, we knew there was major uncertainty with this, and I know you're following this and you've heard all of this, but I just want to tell you something. The uncertainty came from the proximity to Umberto, which over last weekend got up to Cat 5 in strength. We knew that we could see what's called the Fujiwara effect out of this, where one system helps the other orbit. The stronger tends to have the weaker orbit. We knew that Umberto would be stronger, so what would happen is one system would come around while the other system dominates in its direction, and that could have pulled Imelda away. There were other factors, though, and the other factor was there was some thought that this big area of high pressure sitting here would be closer to the eastern Great Lakes, and that would have a wind around it pulling systems toward the United States. We also didn't know very well about this. Now, if I step you up to the jet stream level, which is where we are now, look, the hurricanes kind of vanish. They're more of a low-level feature in the atmosphere. We did not know the proximity of that trough a week ago, or not a week ago, 5 days ago. And as a result, there was we just thought it was going to slam into the into the East Coast. And here's where we are now. Take a look at this. Imelda, still tropical storm, expected to get up to hurricane strength very soon, but it's going to move out to open ocean. And Umberto, which is weakening quickly here, is going to move out to open ocean as well. But these two systems are not done. They're going to continue to move their way over toward Europe. But what follows, all right, is that we don't have I'll be honest with you, we don't have a lot of tropical activity to discuss at all. I'm waiting on it. This has been a hurricane season that's been extremely difficult to forecast the strength because the ocean temperatures have been there. We've had instability at times, but one of the big factors is where the Bermuda High lives. I mean, it's been sitting over here for weeks, really since the beginning of August. And that has taken several storm systems like Gabrielle, like Erin, Fernand, now Umberto and Imelda, and kept them out to open ocean. In fact, if you look at our current tracks, okay, knowing that the data on Imelda goes to here at this point, we have largely seen this hurricane season produce a bunch of fish storms, and we have questions as to whether or not that's going to continue. So have a look. There's something important going on in this forecast that means that could mean more rainfall for us, which we do need in the Carolinas and Georgia, but it's not coming from these tropical systems. I'm on one of my favorite websites. You should go to it, Tropical Tidbits. It's a fantastic website run by Levi Cowan, and he is a hurricane expert. So as I play this forward, there you go. You can see the Fujiwara effect, the two systems right here, dancing around one another, and then they're off. Now look at this. As they move into the North Atlantic, there it is. Look at the strength of the winds slamming into, parts of Europe, specifically Ireland. I have some friends in Ireland. I should probably call them and let them know, although I'm sure they're well aware of it. And that's what's left of Imelda here, and high pressure just sinks back in as we work toward the end of this week. Now, some of the models, now watch this carefully, are hinting at the chances of this high pressure cell by early next week sighting far enough off the East Coast that we could get something to develop. Can you see what I mean? It went from here all the way over to there, getting some sort of flow coming back in this direction. And the model that's doing it most is the European model. And look what it's attempting to do, even spin up a very weak coastal low. And if that occurs, this is going to be more moisture for an area that desperately needs it. We've been exceptionally dry. So that's going to be a main focus of where we're going here in the near-term forecast, because for most of August and almost all of September, we've been under very stagnant flow. The Bermuda High has been very much eastward displaced, which I just showed you. It currently is. And that is what has allowed us to build into some very dry conditions. Now, we did have some rain, of course, over the weekend and early this week. Some of this coming from the outer rain bands of Imelda. This is just your last 3 days of total accumulated precipitation. But remember, before this, there was a system that came across the country. In fact, let me show it to you. Here's the last 7 days. There's that system that came across the country and brought in some rainfall. And all of the rains that you see here were critical. And I do want to note how dry we were in parts of south central Georgia. while pockets of North and South Carolina did better on the rainfall. Because leading up to this, take a look at these ranks. The rain shut off, mid-August for us, for most of us? And I've got, if you go up to September 25th, now this was before the weekend, late last week's rains, I had three climate reporting districts here, from the Atlantic coastal plain all the way to the coast, that were having their driest 40 days. Again, those 40 days are the 15th of August to the 25th of September on record. Absolutely bone dry. Now, something else to think about before we go away from this. There's drought farther to the south and east. There's drought in the northeast. There's drought that's building in the central United States. It's promoting extremely rapid harvest, but we're seeing our yields reduced in the Midwest, the corn, soybean states here, because of how dry it's been at the end of this month. Now, look at the harder winter wheat belt. Bigger rains. A lot of these were about a month or 3 weeks ago, but there's been moisture in this area that we just need to consider. In the Mississippi River, it's very low. It bumped up, 3 feet on the rainfall from last week, but it's still 5 feet below low stage at Memphis, meaning it's quite low. The drought monitor has shown a 23% increase in drought over the last 5 weeks, and the majority of that has been here, getting into the northeast, and then right here, Virginia, North South Carolina, parts of Georgia, northern Florida, Alabama. That's been the majority of the growth in the drought monitor as we look and see it I think it's about 67% or 2/3 of the country is in some stage of drought. Now, good news is this morning, look at this, that we still have some of these showers rolling around the northern edge of Imelda. And we're going to watch this continue, but the thing to note here is that as Imelda moves on off, we're going to lose this pretty quickly. So take a look. Here's one of our high-res models. We're playing through the rest of the day on Tuesday. And as we get into Tuesday night and out there into Wednesday morning, you can see that Imelda and Umberto are gone, and we're going to go back over into drier conditions toward the middle of this week and beyond. Now, we get some cooler weather with this, but chances of widespread rain are out the door when Imelda leaves, as you just saw there. Now, thinking all of that through, I want to show you something here. I'm going to do a model comparison, and I'm going to show you some tools I've been working on, okay? This is the European model. I'm way too far out there in the forecast. Now, look at this. By the way, this is all on AgWeather.com. I'll show you how to get to this in a second. In fact, let's do it real quick. Here you go. You're on AgWeather.com. Come up here to Weather Models. Click on it. Then go over to European. And then you get these options to see different places. Now, I was doing the continental United States, but you can just go look at the southeast if you want. But I want you to see the bigger picture. And you get here, which you can now see the weather systems as they move. But what I'm more interested in you seeing is the way in which we're accumulating rainfall. Actually, let's just do this real quick. Okay, Imelda, Umberto out, high pressure moves in. We're up to Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Now look, there's that high, slides off the coast, and watch the surge of moisture coming back into Florida, Georgia, South Carolina. When is this? This is Saturday into Sunday, mainly Sunday. And the European model is trying to let that high pressure center get far enough off coast that we're returning early next week moisture into this region, which we do need, as you saw in some of the deficits here. Now that takes me back to the total precip. When is it? So this is now. We're dealing with this now. As we play it forward, watch, here we go. This is Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Now watch the weekend. Here it goes Saturday night into Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. See it? Now some of the forecast models are attempting to bring in some heavier rains. Now, just understand, a lot of this is next week, and it's just in this operational model run, but it's also in the GFS as well. Take a look. This is our U.S. model. Here we go. We're out Thursday, Friday. We know that the rest of this week after the Imelda's rain bands are gone, we're drier, and then we see, there it is. See that? Sunday, Monday, Tuesday next week. There is better chances of getting some moisture in. Now, I want to show you something that you can do with this, okay? Come back to agweather.com. Again, it's because of my relationship with Ag South and Ag Carolina that I can afford to keep this website running. And if you come over here and click on local weather, all right, right there, you'll be taken to this. And you can type in any location you want. Let's go to, I don't know, I was thinking Wilmington. Wilmington. I typed it in. There it is, Wilmington, North Carolina, WIL. It's all I had to put in. Click Submit. It's hitting all of my APIs. It's giving you your own local radar, and as soon as it's done getting all the data, there it goes. All of it is now ready. You can see a few things on here. For example, you can play the radar if you want to kind of watch the moisture come through. But I want you to see down here some of the stats, right? Wilmington, 1.45 inches in the last 72 hours. That's right downtown at the city center. We're expecting 0.65 to 1.33 over the next 7 days. But you can see there's a rip current statement and high surf advisory, but that's not what I wanted you to look at in this one. Go across the top. For example, look at hourly. There's your chances of rain today. Then see how they drop off? What I'm curious about is the increases in chances we're seeing over here and how you can compare the models to one another. Don't forget, you can get a written summary from the National Weather Service if you want. You can look at a bunch of cards if you're interested in that for the next 2 weeks, or come right over to this one. Look at the 15-day precip. Now, this is the guy I want to take a look at. All right, I've got 4 models overlaid with one another, or stacked up. So, European model, below it's the GFS, below that is the AI model, and below that is the NBM. The N stands for National, B, Blended, M model. So this is a blend of all the models. Now, they're all good on the rainfall today. That's fine. It's this Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday event, right? I said maybe a little bit coming in Saturday, Sunday, but Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Take note, the European is most aggressive. The GFS has moisture, but not nearly the same amount. The AI is dry. The blend says Monday, Tuesday. So this is a great way by which you can build confidence in a forecast, and it's a tool that will not only work here, but it works on your phone. Go play around with it. ag-wx.com. We are adding more and more to it all the time, okay? From there, let's get back into the bigger picture. What's the odds of this happening? So this is the chance at getting an inch, over the next, well, let's see how far out we have to go. So I'm through Friday into Saturday. Now watch, we're going to keep an eye right here, knowing that as that high pressure center slides off to the east, we're going to bring some return moisture. So as we get into early next week, there it is. That's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. See how the probabilities are coming up for better rainfall. So I'm going to park it at next Thursday and just take note that we're now in this 40 to 70% chance of grabbing a full inch of rain going forward in the forecast, knowing there's some model differences, but movement of that high pressure cell is going to be everything. Okay, so we're just putting together a story here as we go forward. Now, on agweather.com, let's just go back to it here. This is what I did. I went over to this weather maps. Now, I made this mainly for me, okay? So you're on agweather.com. If you click on weather maps, WX maps, you're just taken to this massive matrix. And you want to know what I do every morning when I wake up? I come straight down to my computer and I just do this, because these are all in an order of things that I like to see. And I'm just glancing to see if there's anything big coming, like, hey, look at that, some snow coming into the Rockies here. That's something important to talk about to Ag West Farm Credit, but not Ag South. I look at all my models comparing the next week's worth of rain. And then down here, I have this day 8 through 14. And remember how the AI model was drier? You can see it was drier. But take a look at the European. See how it's normal on precipitation into week 2? Much drier into this area, but normal in through here. Those are the kind of signals we're looking for in these, these week 2 forecast models, which again, you can just find on the main website, all stacked up, 4 models in a row here. All right. Okay, from there, the pattern. Now, this pattern is a bit messy because the jet stream is way far to the north. That's where the net position of the jet stream is right now. And below it, we're kind of blocked up in the Pacific, and there's a big ridge sitting here. That's the one we're hoping slides out to open ocean. We're also a bit blocked up in Europe as well, across Russia. But the bigger question is, when does this pattern begin to shift itself around to give us something a bit more like we expect in fall? So we've now looked out the next 2 weeks. Let's go out there to week 3, week 4. That would be October 11th through the 24th. And you'll note this drier area in through here, which has shown up in all the models. But better precipitation is expected. And one of the reasons for this is that we have lower pressure out to open ocean. They're expecting a little bit better flow, but right into the interior of the country. I bet I could expand this more. I think we're going to be seeing some drier conditions. Take a look at the European model. That is the October forecast, okay? And it's very dry in the lower Mississippi Basin over toward the Red River Valley in this part of the Cotton Belt. And you can see that it's drier for you as well. But I think we need to take this and just understand that we in the Carolinas, while this region may go drier, we may have a bit more access to moisture. Now, what could make this all wrong? Well, we still have another 30 days of the hurricane season to go. And these are the active regions when you get into the end of the hurricane season. So watch the Bay of Campeche and the Gulf. Watch the Western Atlantic for development. While I'm not even talking about it right now because there's nothing brewing in the near term, These are areas that later in October, outside of the near-term scope of our forecastability, could produce a system. All right, that's what we have to be thinking about here. Overall, though, we got a new drought monitor seasonal outlook. And what I'm concerned about is the National Weather Service is predicting from now through the end of the year that this region is going to continue to build or maintain its drought. And we need to be very well aware of that. And you can even see some of the pockets of drought in the Ag South territory here and Ag Carolina territory that are expected to persist. So just a few things to kind of piece all this together. I got curious after seeing this as to what our October and November precipitation stats look like. And to be honest, there's no trend. There's no trend in the precipitation for October and November that is worth talking about, but it is highly variable. So I got wondering, like, what would it take to make it very, very wet in October, November, and completely wipe out all of this? All right, well, this is what has to happen. We have to get the jet stream to produce very low pressure between Hawaii and the Aleutian Islands. So the flow comes around like this, pops over this ridge, dives, and ejects. And it helps if there's some sort of Bermuda high return pumping moisture into this area. It's also nice if you keep deep areas of low pressure south of Greenland. That's actually called the Icelandic low. And if that takes place, man, we would get into a pattern like we saw in 95, 15, 85. These were really, really wet October, Novembers for this region. So that's what you're looking for. That would be the pattern to be discussed. By the way, while we're here, this is NOAA's Climate at a Glance website. Let's, instead of looking at precipitation, look at temperature. Because I am just curious, since 1970, if there's any sort of notable October, November trend. And yeah, there's a bit of a trend. We're a little bit warmer, mainly with our overnight lows. So that would just beg the question, excuse me, should we expect more of the warmth that we have been seeing? Before I go into that, by the way, the warmth, where did I put that? There. We'll come back to that in a second. Can I give you one more thing to think about here? I drew for you what we've seen when it's really wet in the southeast. Remember this a moment ago? This is what we've seen since 2020. We have not had deep lows here. So it's the jet streams kind of run over the top of this. It's produced another area of high pressure here. So this wasn't an L, it was an H, okay? And that has been the setup that we've been experiencing. And a lot of that has been driven by the fact there's been very warm ocean temperatures here for a while and here. And over those same years, October to November for 2020 to 2024, we watched La Niñas build every fall, except for one, 2023 fall. Okay, so 4 out of the last 5 years, there's been a La Niña building at this time of year, except for 2023. Now, I'm bringing all that up because before I talk about temperatures again, I want you to know that every single major outlet that's forecasting, ENSO, El Nino and the Southern Oscillation, they're all going after weak La Niñas this fall. Okay, so there's that's just a concluding point to this. Now, back to those temperatures. We've been on a slight warming trend for the last 55 years or so. If we take a look at, here we go. Nope, there we go. If we take a look at the way the first 10 days of September panned out versus really the last 18, we were very chilly at the beginning, extremely hot in the northwest, and then we transitioned to this. And we're just curious how mild things are going to continue to stay since there is an upward trend. So over the next 7 days, we have frost in the west, and we've got frost in the northeast. But take a look at what our max temperatures are doing. Yeah, we're cooler today because of clouds. We're near normal tomorrow, while it's very hot in the Midwest. Near normal, little cooler than average as we get into Thursday and Friday. And what you notice is that throughout the rest of this week, the temperatures are very pleasant. We're looking at, average temps, while it's extremely hot in the Midwest for this time of year. Now, does that ever just push over toward us? Well, some of the models, not really getting there. So there's your next 5 days. We saw that. What about through day 5 through 10? Yeah, a little bit more mild at that time frame. And day 10 through 15 seems to maintain the mild weather. And that's mainly because the jet is way up here. It's not here. And as a result, these mild forecasts seem to have a bit longer legs on them than otherwise. Let me give you another example of this. I'll just tell you what. Let's go here to I'll just open a new tab. How about that? If I go to the Climate Prediction Center website, we'll look out there. There's you saw it a moment ago, day 8 through 14, but I'm really curious. That's the week 3, week 4. They've got you at near normal, October 11 through 24, excuse me. But I still think we're going to get plenty of warmth in here late in this season. If there's a cold air intrusion, it's late in the month. That's the current thinking based upon what we know today. All right. Now, let's get back into the bigger picture and stretch this out. We'll finish with South America in a few moments. La Nina is going to be the main point of discussion going into fall. Okay, in terms of weather predictors, it's this cool water you see here. Over the last couple of weeks, though, we've seen a pretty significant change in the ocean temperatures here. So this is a 7-day trend. Okay, so it's gotten cooler. The water temperatures are still quite warm in the North Pacific, but they've gotten cooler. Now, just let me draw on this map as a case in point for winter. If this was going to go back over warm and stay very warm into December, the jet likely comes over the top and then dives and exits. And that gives us a very, very active winter for the East Coast. I'm talking lots and lots and lots of storm systems. Okay? But lately it's gone over cool. And that could reorient the jet to bring it farther to the south and have it run across the country, maybe like you see in one of those 3 lines I just drew. We do not know. And if anybody's out there making some bold prediction about winter, they're full of it, okay? It's just that. It's just a bold prediction. It's speculative. There's no skill out there. So I want you to know that. But the reason why we're looking at this is because some of the other factors we watch for winter haven't set up yet, like Siberian snow cover. We have to wait on that. That's an October feature. Or what's the North Atlantic and or the Arctic going to be doing? We got to wait until November, December for that setup. What about the polar vortex? Too early to talk about. So we're just looking at these factors now and saying, well, shoot, one of the ones, my favorite ones, the MJO is just dead. It's just in null space. So I don't have strong indicators going forward, which is why I looked at trends for you a few moments ago. All right, I do know this. Most models are like this, peaking La Nina just before January starts and then having it fade rapidly through the second half of winter. So you need to watch with me these ocean temperatures here, and then we need to try to discover what it's going to do to our southeast. And I'm going to show you something, but you have to take this with a massive grain of salt, okay? If you looked historically and just said, okay, let's go fall, October, November, December, and let's correlate our rainfall with El Nino, La Nina. If you're in a La Nina, the warmer colors generally mean drier than average conditions. We're wet in the northwest, we're wetter in the northeast, but if you go south of that line I just drew, the risk of being drier is there. That's what historically La Ninas would do. But every La Nina has its own flavor, and this one does as well. Because some of our biggest La Nina events are also cool all through this area and all through that area. And they tend to dominate the statistics, and that's not what we have this year. We have a weak La Nina event taking shape. So then you say, well, what about winter? Well, let's just start in December and go all the way to February. I went to March. Let's just go to February, though. What does it look like? It looks really wet Ohio Valley and then dry. You prefer, based off historical numbers, you prefer an El Nino winter. Then it's wet all down here. So my point is, if you're going to use only La Nina to be your deciding factor, well, we got to back off and just take it with a grain of salt. But know that these are the risks. Okay? Now, I bring all of that up because as I show you the long-range models in a few minutes, they're all going to look like this. Now, temperature-wise, temperature in winter is so difficult to talk about because it swings so much. But generally speaking, you're going, oh, cooler colors. No. This is the negative correlation. So we tend to have a more mild winter. It tends to be much colder to the north. You're going, wait a minute. I know the colors are backwards, but that's because it's a correlation map. The colors don't mean anything. They're just telling me positive versus negative correlation. So if there was an El Nino, you'd be warmer. If there's a La Nina, forgive me, I got that wrong. If there's an El Nino, you'd be cooler and wetter. If there's a La Nina, you're warmer and drier. That's the blanket statement. Now, what do we see from the models? Well, let's go out to the European model. Let's go out there and look at seasonal precipitation, September, October, November. See how dry it is? It's just correlating La Nina. Let's go into October, November, December, drier. Let's go into November, December, January, drier. Let's go into December, January, February. There it is. Active Ohio River Valley, Mid-South, drier. And all I'm telling you is that this is just the way the model's responding to its strongest driving force, which is La Nina right now. And I'm trying to make a case that there will be sub-seasonal factors that will have a bigger influence on this. But every major modeling center, I'm going to show you 2 today, are going to do that. So for example, I'm giving you a global view of this now. October, November, December, see the dryness? Now let's just go out there further. November, December, January, see the dryness? How about December, January, February? There it is. Now what do you do with this? Absolutely nothing. I'm telling you, don't do anything with it. We have to watch this winter take shape. And you better believe it. If La Nina ends up dominating, I'm going to be waving that flag saying, hey, these models were right. They caught it early. But I'll tell you, last winter, there were projections for this, and we got a foot of snow along the Gulf Coast. So just remember that as you go forward, all right? Now, speaking of going forward, we have to have a quick look at South America, which over the last 7 days had a front come through, bringing in needed rainfall here to get them to start planting. They are moving. They're right now at 6% as of last Friday, planted in Mato Grosso. And my projections based off weather is that they're going to be staying at the top end of their 5-year distribution on the planting of soybeans. Why? Because the next 2 weeks are drier here. Now, normally, we get worried about dry signals in October, but it just rained right in through there. So this is, the seed bed became very viable to get crop planted. They're going to go aggressive after the next 2 weeks. And they are all hoping that this forecast is right. That by the middle of October, the 3rd week of October, the rains are going to come back the 15th through the 21st. And if they do, this is going to set South America off on not brisk pace, but on record pace to get the crop in, get it established, and things are going to move quickly, opening up their entire crop calendar. So did I say Australia? I meant South Americans. The South Americans, I was just talking to a group of Australians last night, sorry. But the South Americans are going to be very excited about this moving forward. And I just met with a group of them last week, and they told me that they are expecting a very, very fast planting season this season. They are all very anxious to get it in, and they're going to go quick. We need to watch that. So that brings you up to speed on all the big things I'm watching around the world. And I just got to be honest again, I am glad I'm talking to you today about 2 tropical systems leaving the coast, not creating devastating flooding. That is a very, very good thing. So we'll finish it there. I'll talk to you again next month. Take care and be safe.